Good luck. Zato versus May. Get ready to heaven or hell. Duel. One. Let's rock.
I wonder if he was trying to do like a dolphin release into cross up with the IAD.
Keep on rocking.
Did you know tazos are pogs in Spanish? I did not. You know what tazo means in Korean? It means ostrich.
Heaven or hell. Duel. One. Let's rock.
Someone in chat yesterday wanted the next assortment of letters to be tazo, so here it is. One of these days I'll run out of a random assortment of letters of Zato, but today is not that day yet. May is a hellish matchup for me. Which character might that be that you play?
All or nothing.
I know allegedly Kai players have told me that they don't like the Mei matchup all that much. But the veracity of that statement might be disputable. Are you Korean or just know it? I am Korean. I moved to Canada when I was pretty young, but with the power of family and also MapleStory, my Korean speaking and writing have thankfully kept up. The thing he's doing is the half circle back super whiner into YRC, and it's more of a gimmick, honestly, than anything else. And I think he is overusing it. I play Zato, but there's always that one Mei in lobbies that's too good for me. The really good Mei players no longer play, to my knowledge, but there are still some, like, I think Moku is one of them. This guy that I'm playing right now is one of them, is Arc Fury, who I recently found out is also in Toronto, like me. But there used to be a guy in Chicago, or I think it was in Chicago, is Blood Wolf, and there was also GPS, Gay Porn Stuntman. That combo just barely worked. I play Zato, but there's... Oh, you play Zato, okay. Somehow you missed that first part, the first time you wrote it. Plus online games for having you keep you up with your language, yeah. Especially when it's an MMO, like you have to actually interact with these people. I mean, I even learned a little bit of Mandarin Chinese just to understand some of these dudes when I was playing when I used to play Arknights. To read like official posts and stuff. GP what now? Yeah, that is a... Understandably, most tournaments just labeled him as GPS, using the acronyms only. I think for Zato, this matchup isn't like the worst thing in the world. And mainly it has to do with both characters being able to contest each other's summons from full screen. Like Zato is far drill. And Mei just has a lot of different ways to threaten you from like that range for far drill hits.
Heaven or hell. Duel 1. Let's rock.
There it is. I think he's trying to get the ride after. So they cross up hits and then he rides also, I think, is the combo he's trying to do. I remember seeing GPS and thinking it was random. Oh, it is not random. That is a very deliberately chosen set of 3 characters. I really wanted the ball to get blocked by Zato. No air throw. Oh, it's a bad burst. But Mei has seemingly godlike buttons also. Yeah, that's true.
Heaven or hell. Duel 1. Let's rock.
Mei does have the good buttons. Case in points, good buttons. Should kill her, yeah. The amount of air throwing is so much aura. Listen, you play Zato, and you come to terms with the fact that your anti-airs are like non-existent. You will learn how if you play this character. What was that? High jump after... Damn. Making versions of Naoki are evil. It's the damage. It's like you get one random hit in the air, but Mei's also in the air, and then you get put in the corner, you take like 200 damage, and you're knocked down into Dolphin. Okay. Like there's a lot of characters that can do that, but they don't have Mei's damage that go along with it. What is that? 2H against 5H and it clashes. He seemingly always gets to combo into that headbutt that traps you.
Duel 2. All or
I tried, but I was never good at Rev 2 in general. I switched to Strive when it came out, but it's way too easy. I'm trying to get better with him on Rev 2 now. Here's one of my thoughts on Strive, okay? I think Strive is a very difficult game when it comes to you learning how to win in Strive. And the reason behind this is that because they made the process of learning a character so much easier in that game, like getting the basics down and being able to do stuff functionally with that character, like that process has become really easy in Strive. And because that's the case, the tier of players who once used to be like intermediate in this game are now having to learn like the very fundamental aspects of fighting games through Strive, which is just like, in the end, RPS. And you know, like, trying to get the other person to do the thing that you want them to do. And that kind of stuff in Exerd comes a lot later than it does in Strive. Because there's so much stuff that you have to learn before you can access all of that, that most people who would label themselves as intermediate in Exerd are still, by and large, just struggling to get their character stuff going. But again, if you look at Strive, that's not really the case, because the time it takes to get to the point where you can get your character stuff running has become so much shorter. And so when a player like this asks, well, how can I get better at this game now in Strive? The answer to that is a lot more difficult to act upon than if that player were to be playing Exerd, because now the answer is just, well, like, here's all this setup stuff you can learn, here's all these things that you're not getting consistently right now that you could just learn in training mode. There's a lot of stuff you can just honestly get better at through training mode and like learning single player stuff that would massively improve most people who play the game. It's kind of like the StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2 comparison, where it's like, in SE1, even at the highest level of competition, it's a battle of who makes the least amount of fuck-ups, like who makes the least amount of mistakes, because that game is just so hard to mechanically execute at the level where people want it to. As opposed to in StarCraft 2, what they did with the sequel is they made a lot of things easier to do, not unlike Strive, but then in doing so they took away a lot of the skill expression that went into very menial things, like being able to select more than 12 units at a time, being able to select more than one building at a time. These are things where it's like, well, yeah, you should obviously be able to do that if you think about like StarCraft 2 in a vacuum. But even if these things are quote-unquote meaningless in terms of like being or being not able to do in a game, they still hold a lot of value in terms of like just adding mechanical difficulty to a game. It's kind of like Melee too. Melee has a lot of stuff where it's like, why is this thing in the game? Why do I have to do that manually? And it might not be like the developer's intent, but what it ended up doing is it just added a lot of mechanical depth to the game, right? And you can even look at this through just plus R and Exerd too. So plus R also has some of these things where it's like, this is hard for no reason. Like, this is just difficult to do. And you might be inclined to say, yeah, let's just get rid of that to make the game easier and more welcoming for new players. But pointless difficulty like that still adds a lot of value to the game in its own way. Not every game has to be like that, but in the games that it does, it is very valuable that it exists. I used to play StarCraft before, not before fighting games, but like 2 genres before fighting games. And, sometimes it is very useful to think about. Which race? I was Zerg. Zerg in Brood War, Zerg in SE2. Although, after I stopped playing SE2, I started to I started to enjoy watching Terran more than Zerg in both games. So like, if theoretically I move back to playing StarCraft, I would probably just relearn the game through Terran.
Turn up the heat.
Alright, now let's try to stop losing in this match. Oh, okay. Oh, I can't do that on mate. That probably doesn't work. No, it's fine. Okay. Just barely. You can't do 6H, 6H after Zayadust on May, Faust, and Ram. Only those three.
Heaven or hell. Duel.
You have to do 2H, 6H. So 6H, 6H does, I think, like, I want to say like 5 more damage on a full HP character. But it has a little bit of a more difficult timing to set up unblockables, because you have to do the drill, like the big drill setup, as late as possible, and it's hard. And it also just doesn't work on some characters, as aforementioned. 2H, 5H is, or 2H, 6H is a lot easier to do, mechanically. The drill setup is also easier. Oh, it's not gonna work. Okay, that's fine.
Duel. Two. All or nothing. Counter.
Yeah, if I think about it, my gaming experience went from Maple Story to StarCraft to Osu to League. No, hold on. From Maple, StarCraft, then League, then Osu. And then fighting games. Yeah, it was until like 2016-ish. No, hold on. Then League, then Hearthstone. Then fighting games. I should not burst. I'm gonna burst. Those two statements were both true. I should not have bursted, but I still wanted to burst. Oh shit, okay, that's why. I need 2H, 2H? That works too. It's just lower damage than 2H, 6H. It's too early. Okay. That ball is very dangerous in this spot because Super Flash makes it move while you cannot move. So there are like very, very technically unblockable setups there if you are not blocking before Super Flash, if the ball hits you during its movements. Oh, it's not what I want.
Keep on rocking. Counter.
Okay, works with me.
Let's rock.
I think Mei can still do more on offense. So like the amount of times I'm seeing real mix for sure. But I feel like if it were a different Mei, I would be a lot more concerned about every single time I get knocked down. Oh, I'm still in recovery. That's a little upsetting, but that is everyday Zato. I wish the Executor Sword did more damage. Yeah, it does roughly the same, if not a little bit more than Amorphous. If you do it from the other side of the screen, like the other corner, which is a little sad. But you know, if I were to like buff the character, I think most people wouldn't buff the character in the direction of just giving supers more damage. Oh, it is me. Okay. Well. I was under the impression that it would hit Eddie, not me. Okay. Should have super there. Damn. Well, he could have killed me earlier, so that's whatever. 2D, spin super. I think like almost full screen carry.
Heaven or hell. Duel 1. Let's rock.
Oh, okay. Well, that works. It should be known also, 2S into summon, even if it's a puddle summon, into stuff like Nobiru are not gapless, so they can be taken advantage of, but basically no one ever does. Also, 3K is really good in this matchup, May 3K, because it kills Eddie and then you can still YRC. And like the initial few frames of 3K that it takes to just kill Eddie at a really far distance, still lets you YRC afterwards. Like you do 3K, you wait like, I want to say like 10 frames, you move like halfway across the screen, and then you can still YRC after killing Eddie. But to be honest, May already has a good button for killing Eddie, which is Far Slash, because it kills Eddie even if Eddie's not doing anything. Like it just reaches that far down. So it's like, she has a good thing to deal with it already, but on top of that, she also has 3K. Oh shit. I'm experimenting with using Break the Law into P release instead of S. I usually do S because the timing of comboing from P is a lot more difficult and or also just impossible sometimes. But I think even with that risk, it might be better to just always guarantee the knockdown, because S release can't guarantee it. Oh damn. And that knockdown difference is pretty crazy.
Heaven or hell. Duel. One. Let's rock.
I also need to not do gold burst there. That's a bad burst because that is an OS spot. Okay. Damn. There's actually no reason not to block there too, but I was trying to do like a air backdash and I let go of 4 briefly. No burst baits. I think if Nobiru had a hitbox on the bottom of his animation, like at the base on the ground, it would still be a completely fair move. But unfortunately, the hitbox for this move only follows the head portion, which means for tech trapping purposes, it is pretty bad and not useful at all when catching latest possible tech to the ground. It's fine with me. Oh, it was the worst spot to burst. I don't know why I burst it there. See, like there, Mei is too low to the ground, so Nobiru, even at that timing, will not work. But on the other end, he's doing lowest possible tech often enough that I should actually just hard bait it now. Oh, that was supposed to be a throw. You cannot do that. You are simply forbidden at that range.
Turn up the heat.
Is that the end? There it is. GG's. I may have one more person. Oh, TXT is happening? Is it TXT or what is it? NKO? I think the guy that pinged me 30 minutes ago might now be playing in this tournament. Oh, it's NKO. Okay. Did it start 47 minutes ago or 17 minutes ago? If it's 47, there are probably some people who already are out now. It is 47, okay. Well, I think either way, I now have to look for a public room. I tried asking the guy that made the hitbox overlay tool if it's possible to mod the game in a way where you can see full lobbies. And he came back at me with, it is not possible, just systems-wise, because of the way Steam works. Which is a bit sad, but it is lower on the priority list anyways, in terms of mods that the game needs. Guess I'll make a room. Tips for Johnny Zato matchup. Are you the Johnny or the Zato? Although I'm assuming you're the Zato. Oh. You were the Zato? Okay. Round start, mainly 5p or 2s. 2s beats the things that a lot of the things 5p don't will. 5p is just there for mainly to stop coin. If you both do coin, or if Johnny does coin and you do 5p, you'll do a counter hit. But very unfortunately, that counter hit leads to nothing. Nothing you do can lead to a combo there. Otherwise, from a Johnny perspective, your drills are pretty significant in the way that they stop your movements. So one thing you'll find is that they'll very much heavily prefer trying to IAD at you or like YYRC. And so you need to have a solid response to both of those things, because you're going to see it a lot. And unfortunately, the responses that you have are not exactly easy nor highly rewarding, but imagine that Johnny does like this kind of thing, neutral. You can't 6p this. You can't 2h this, even if you do it later. Oh, that worked. Usually that happens if you 2h. 5p also not usually good, although here is trading. And so the option you're really left with is trying to like meet him in the air. Preemptively. Like that. If you have good timing with this, you can alter air throw. Like that. But the problem with both of these is that now, in this situation, at this range, you sometimes just have to risk jumping up like this. And when you're in this position, Johnny is like... This is one of his favorite ranges when he has levels. And you can imagine why, right? So you just have to balance it, like... You have to show them that you can do this thing that's hard to do. Like, even if you don't necessarily actually do it, just show them that, like, you're willing to jump up and do this, like, once. And then now your drills become stronger, because now he has to play on the ground more. Defense-wise, I guess some universal things, like this string you might see a lot if you're not familiar with the character. This has a gap that you can blitz even without IB, so it's one of the easier ones to learn how to blitz. People also, when they play Johnny, they have a tendency of throwing after a certain normal. Like, what I mean by that is they'll have like their favorite normal that they like to like cancel off of and then run and throw you. Some Johnnies will like prefer 5k and then throw. Some people will prefer like far slash throw. And so it's really up to you to find what your opponent Johnny's favorite button is before throwing. Like if it's a really good Johnny player, they'll mix it up a lot so you can't tell. But most people who play the character will have like this tell, essentially. Same with like just dashing forwards, even if it's not a throw. Like Johnnies will have tendencies of canceling and then dashing after a certain normal, like 5H. Here you can see like I'm mostly not dashing after far slash, and I'm mostly doing it off of like 5H or 6H. But you can mix it up a lot, even if you, especially if you have coin. Coin kind of just wins the interaction for you as long as you have it. And so if he does use it, you probably just have to hold it and kind of hope for an opening. If the Johnny is willing to spend coin, then it's in your best interest to just kind of sit still and not die. You have to be really careful with Johnny also, because one of your favorite strings is Zato, which is like 2S Fardril, is very exploitable by Johnny. So you'll see this. But Johnny can reversal 6k after 2S, even without IBing, and he gets a full punish on this. And now you're in the corner. Take note though, this specific string, where you do 2S into drill here, most characters can actually do this, but it's just harder for other characters because they have to IB the 2S, and then they have to IAD afterwards. Johnny can just 6k, so you'll see this probably a lot if they know what the matchup is like for them. And now you're in the sad range, the Johnny zone. Otherwise, same thing with summons. Like if you're trying to do something sneaky, like summoning off of this kind of button, and then trying to do something delayed, you can get killed if Johnny has levels. So do beware. I think this is a PMF timing issue. Is it? There we go. Is it? Oh no, it's a dash timing issue. There we go. The JDJS works there, but I think he has to be lower to the ground. Maybe the JD can be later too. Yeah, I can. Okay, I got it. It's jarring if you don't play Johnny a lot because there's like two different misfinder cancel timings here. One with a level 3, one with a level 1. And that difference is very sudden. There we go. Pretty sure you can do that. Maybe just JD. As of recent, my friend's been JP my Moaru. What kind of pressure should I use? Do you mean jumping the Moaru? If you're having issues where they're jumping out, it depends where they're jumping out. If it's like at the beginning of the string, like here, then it's just an issue. It's just an issue of the buzzsaw being too late. But if they're jumping out like, oh, just block, okay. If they're IBing Moaru, they have opportunities where they can blitz after, and that does stop your pressure. But generally, IBing Moaru doesn't really do too much in terms of like giving them space to mash or anything like that. It's very specific. So like if here, there's going to be a gap here. So right now, I let go of my stick, and I was still able to block the JS, right? But if I IB, oh, it still can. Okay, hold on. Does that work? No, okay. Okay. So sometimes IBing the last hit of buzzsaw here will let you blitz like this. Is what I was trying to illustrate. And that's very specific as to, in terms of like blocking this mix-up that normally comes afterwards. But if you mean like, if you mean they're just mashing, oh, hold on. If you mean they're just mashing after IBing like this, and you're getting hit by this, then you are just not doing the mix-up that you're supposed to do. So the mix-up that you're supposed to do, just in case, is this, number one, which is doing the 3 overheads. So that's number 1. This one's number 2. So you do JK into land 2K. So at this moment right here, when Zato does JK, they have to guess, right? Either it's overhead again or 2K. So that's number 2. Here's number 3, which is they don't do the JK at all, and they just land and do the empty low. And then you have a 4th one, which is you do the air dash into JS and then do more stuff. The only reason you do this mix-up with buzzsaw is to mix up the timing between the empty jump and this version of the overhead. If you only do this, if you only do the overheads, the overhead into low, and empty low, if you only do these 3, there are going to be times where this empty low gets you thrown by the opponents. So that's gonna have a gap. Like that. So to stop them from doing so, you need to do the air dash. Which obviously means that you are not on the ground, so you can't be thrown. Does JH throw off the timing? If you mean the one where I do it on the way up, like this, it's to guarantee a minimum amount of time before I can press a button again. So that I can't do like a super high up button like this. Because if I'm all the way up here, it's a little bit easier to block the mix, since there's more time before I can land into my low button, right? But if you're down here, then it's more ambiguous, and the timing becomes a lot more difficult, if not impossible, to fuzzy guard. Now, this doesn't guarantee the lowest possible button. The lowest possible button is like here. This one just now. And JH does not guarantee this low of a JS. But it comes pretty close. And so guaranteeing that like minimum bar, at least, is very useful. Because it's legitimately kind of difficult to get this to be 100% consistent, so it's good to have like the insurance of this minimum height still. I remember someone asking me this too earlier, and it was just like negative edge in general, and it's like there are some things you can do as Zato. It's kind of like exercises for negative edge. That's one of them just now, where you do 2P, 2K. So 2P, 2K, release P, 2S far drill, and between the 2S and the far drill, you do a release P. And then like this part afterwards, you don't really have to do, but it just completes the combo, in case you ever actually get the combo in the real game. But the purpose behind that string is to make sure that you're able to consistently do button into release P into drill, and make sure it's a combo. Because that thing is used quite a bit in real matches, like if you're doing this kind of thing. This comes up really often, so it is good to have in your arsenal. Generally, other things that are good to have consistent are your side thrust routes. It's pretty easy. But you can also summon here. Into unblockable. You can do... You can do this loop here, and try to get as many as you can. You never actually want to do this many loops in the game, because the way the combo works, the proration isn't that good. But again, the purpose is just to make sure that you are capable of doing it in case you need to, ever. But probably number one most important thing that you should get consistent if you're intending to learn the character is go to training mode and make sure that no matter what you do, you're able to get into a knockdown, and then from that knockdown you're able to loop it infinitely. So in this process, your combo should never drop, because that is what you have to do in game, in actual matches. if it does ever drop in that process, then your OK as it stands is too inconsistent. And there is still work to be done. This goes for most characters. Like even if I'm playing like I have Johnny selected here. I should be able to do some sort of real mix into a knockdown and loop that into another mix, into another knockdown, and then just repeat that forever. I probably should have specified I've been playing that character for months now, but some things I draw blanks on. I see. Very general things are a lot more difficult to try and point out. And usually, the way you want to go about it, if you are actually having issues in terms of things that go on in your game, is to show someone your replay, ideally. See that just now? The 2D whiffing. There, that just now. That thing is the devil. 2D range on Zato is atrocious. But yeah, even aside from character specifics, like the reason I'm bringing it up, because I know you asked for specifics to begin with, is because most people who play the game are still stuck at this phase where it's like you'll see their games that they're playing, and it's very clear that there are still mechanical parts to their Oki in particular that are still just not there yet. And just fixing that one thing is so important for Exord. Exord is all about just being able to loop Oki. I'm a little surprised that still no one has joined. Which means I may just go and watch NKO. Usually for me, it's keeping the loop going. Usually dead angles and attacks after IB beat me. There's a few things you can do for dead angle, and it depends on the character you're facing. Against some characters, you can just do Shadow Gallery after your first, the Buzzsaw Mix starter. Here. So for example, if you're playing versus an Axel, this is a character where I need to do the opposite. This is a character where you are blessed to be able to do this and beat the character. So this works on like half the cast-ish, maybe a little bit more than half. But if you type Zato in chat, here, let me do it. Oh no, actually, hold on. It only works on Twitch. So let me post it here, and then copy it over. There's a tab on the bottom that says DAA scenarios. That's honestly, a lot of this is still work in progress. Ignore everything here other than the startup, frame advantage, and whether it's yellow or gray, okay? Everything else still needs to be like redone completely. But the rows that are yellow are the ones where you can just do button into Shadow Gallery, and it works. So for example, if I pull out a Faust, you'll be able to do the same thing, because his row in this sheet is yellow. That being said, people oftentimes don't dead angle exactly on your air button. Like, they'll delay it a little bit, or they'll do it earlier on the buzzsaw itself. And so, realistically, what you'll do, and you'll see me do a lot, is this kind of thing, where you kind of like just use JK, fly up, and then see what they do. If they do a dead angle, you can just go back down and press buttons and get a knockdown, hopefully. If they don't do anything, then, well, that's kind of the downside of doing that, but point being, there are several ways to go about it, and it's up to you. If you have a really strong idea that they're going to bait, or that they're going to do dead angle, then you can go for like a super hard punish. But it depends. Okay, I'm gonna go and watch NKO, I guess, or TXT, I don't know which one it is. But for the time being, I will